episode again, and this time with Mark. Mark, how are you doing?
Good.
And you are, what are you doing?
I'm chairman of the CDN Alliance.
Chairman of the CDN Alliance.
Yes.
And let me know, why do we need an alliance for CDNs?
Because CDNs by history, if you look at the last 20 years, have always been siloed, and there's little to no cooperation between CDNs.
So what is the purpose of CDN Alliance? What kind of members do you have, and what work do you do?
So we really look at the CDN ecosystem. So those are what we call CDN service providers. So anyone that markets and/or sells CDN services, CDN technology providers, like for instance Agile Content. We work with ecosystem partners like ISPs and carriers, data centers, etc. And we work with actually the users of the CDNs and CDN technology. So really the ecosystem that we try to work together.
Okay. And what do you think are the biggest challenges for CDNs in general and so on right now? Why do we need to work together?
There are lots of, CDN in general is a relatively commodity. But if you look at for instance, if you look at multi-CDN, which most broadcasters, content providers use, it's still a nightmare to make sure that everything works correctly in the full chain. There are scalability issues still. There are quality issues still, and new innovations, developments are not really taken care of. So we really want to work on things that are commonly known as issues and solve them for everybody.
And but the CDN market is it's also kind of tough market, right? I mean, as far as I know, there's heavy price erosion and so on on the units and so on. So and there's quite some consolidation within the CDN market as well.
Yeah, if you pure look at CDN itself, yes. But for instance, one of the trends that we see happening is security. Security combined with CDN, for instance, is something really that is growing and gets more importance. So we look at CDN not just for the delivery part, which is one element, but also in terms of security, and which of course the new part is edge. And we really look at all three elements and how we can make that better.
So does that mean that CDN is becoming something more than content delivery networks?
It's pure. Yeah, if you look at all the current CDNs out there, right? If you look at Akamai, whatever, they are basically all based on those three pillars. It's the delivery part. That's what they do. That's basically where they all started. Security was added in a couple of years ago, where really they had the boom for security. Now everybody's looking at edge, and those are the new developments for CDN, for CDN, of content delivery networks in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that all together is part of it. Yes.
Okay, and are there any standards that are within the CDN space or so on, or is everything kind of de facto and based on best practices?
Yes, so if you look at the standard itself on CDN, and that's why CDNs also work independently, it works in general, is that it's all based on open standards, right? We use HTTP, all the other stuff is based on standards. But if we look at other parts, like for instance, if you look at tokens or whatever, those are not standardized still, even though everybody needs it. For instance, it doesn't make anybody difference. Still, we also all have different implementations how we should do it, and that could be a lot simpler.
Yeah, because now we bring it up. I mean, my experience from multi-CDN, since we do multi-CDN solutions and so on, is that tokens is one of the problems, because it's difficult to do multi-CDN.
Access log files, this is how you redirect traffic, how you measure quality. I mean, there are initiatives going on like CMCD, CMSD, SVTS, open caching. There are initiatives, but there is no homogeneous approach in general.
And are you, as a CDN Alliance, driving any of those initiatives to make it happen, or?
So we started. So we're a relatively young organization. So we now have 2 working groups, and I will go public with that a little bit sooner. What those actually are, but we are already working with some working groups based on those particular standards. Yes.
Yeah, because now I don't remind me which was that to initiate the joint effort in specifying log files. That was right, or?
So there's nobody doing log files right now.
Okay.
There's nobody. No. So open caching is there from SVTA. There are some multi-CDN initiatives. The CTA Wave in combination with SVTA is working on common token authentication. So there are initiatives, but those are still spread over. There's no oversight.
And how is it going, rolling out these initiatives to come up with some joint technology with like open caching and so on? Is that successful, or?
I think that depends on who you talk to. I mean, there are implementations, that's for sure, that we know of. But it's not a widespread phenomenon yet in terms of implementation. Everybody is aware of it. I think a lot of people and organizations and vendors are adapting to it. But implementations, really using it actively, there are not a lot of them yet. But that also takes time. It's not something that happens overnight.
No, you're right. No, and I think trying to come up with concepts to do smarter interoperable CDNs. We have tried that a few times, right?
Yes, there were standards. There were standards earlier, like the ITF, CDNI, Etsy had their own years ago. But those were very technology focused, really trying to solve a technology problem instead of also looking at the business side of things, which is as important if you look at technology.
Yeah. But we have a history of not being super successful in rolling out this initiative.
Correct.
So hopefully we get better at that.
Yes.
All right. So anything else that you have noticed at IBC? This is the last day of IBC, so I guess you have been here a couple of days.
I've been here since the start. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's your general view on IBC and the industry?
So I think it's more busy than last year, based on what I've seen so far. There's really a business vibe going on, so I like it better than last year. Of course, last year was the first time after COVID, so I think everybody was a little bit adjusting. But I think everybody got the hang of it now again. Why these kind of events are important to connect with everybody.
It's good to meet.
It's good to meet physically again instead of having a Zoom or whatever.
Yeah, there is a value in actually sitting next to each other in a Mini Cooper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's great. Are there any innovations or something that made you go wow?
No, I don't think there's a real specific topic at the IBC this year that I can see that says, okay, wow. I mean, fast, yes, everybody talks about fast.
A little bit too much, maybe.
Maybe a little too much. AI actually was more present last year than I see it this year, to be honest. NAB, there was more about AI than I see here at IBC.
I think you can conclude that there are some acronyms that was used maybe a little bit sloppy, like 5G and AI and so on. There's actually less of that on the booth now than it was last year.
Maybe people are like, okay, back to business instead of all the new stuff. Okay, how can we optimize what we have today?
Yeah, I think it's a health sign that you stop using just these kind of acronyms that doesn't have a big meaning themselves.
Exactly.
It's more how you apply them rather than the concept itself.
Yep.
Great to have you in the car.
Yes.
I think
it was a good ride.
Getting to our destination, and looking forward to have you next time.
Okay, good.
Great.